Okay, so next thing, Luke and his island and how that all goes out. All right, Tommy, you want to tell us your favorite part of the movie where Luke gets some? He gets
the blue milk. Yes.
Oh.
Okay, like, I was actually like uncomfortable like at this scene. Like if I had a child with me, I would be like, should I cover his eyes? Because they didn't look like it was like animal nails. Like they look like straight up like nipples. Okay, I'm just saying, like it was weird.
Yes, it was weird.
And also the fact, okay, here's the thing: if blue milk, if that's the blue milk from Tatooine, does that mean they get like imported from there? Like, how does this work? Like, no one's been in this island ever, so like,
it's like the most well-hidden planet ever, and then they just happen to have the same milk on Tatooine and whatever planet Jyn was on, because you see blue milk in Jyn's house when she's a kid on Rogue One.
Obviously, from the prequels, the trade embargo laws between it's definitely changed. So
yeah.
Oh wow. My goodness. But not only that, the island that Luke is on. So like when I was in theaters at Force Awakens, like the same moment like of having goosebumps and like being like in like here, and it's so epic.
And she's like slowly climbing up this island, and the music's getting bigger, and then you see Luke, and it's like that, boom, boom, boom.
Yes.
It's just like, what?
But like when I was going to see Last Jedi, I was having that moment still, because like it was still continuing. Like I was like, holy crap, this is epic. This is going somewhere. And throughout the entire course of all the scenes on the island, I just felt like that feeling was just slowly diminished and ruined throughout the rest of the film for me.
It was like, it's like it starts out with him throwing the lightsaber over his shoulder and then walking away and then hiding in his hut.
Like a half hour.
Yeah, and then they go over the same thing multiple times to try and convince Luke to do this, and I'm like, that's probably why this movie's so freaking long, is this they keep repeating themselves a lot. Like, how many times did they have to like have this whole conversation with Luke? Train Rey, no. Train Rey, no. Train Rey, okay.
Yeah.
It's just like,
sure.
And eventually he gives in. Like, so throughout the course of the movie, while they're on the island and everything, Rey. It's called The Last Jedi. I do not know why, but Rey is not necessarily a Jedi, and I'm not sure if she really becomes a Jedi in this movie, but she's on this island, and she's supposed to learn the ways of the Force and everything, and while she's there, Luke just will not train her and remains dormant in his own little hut on the island, and Rey's just there and basically starts teaching herself what the Force is. And like one of the sequences I saw in the trailer was Rey actually, she was like waving her lightsaber around next to this rock and everything, and it was super epic, and they did this close-up shot of her almost hitting it, and I was like, whoa, this looks really cool. And then I go to the theater, and she wasn't trained to do this. She was teaching herself how to use a lightsaber, she was teaching herself how to connect with the Force, and Luke was not helping her until about 45 minutes of the way.
And that actually would be an interesting idea if she literally like started forcing her, like training herself, because Luke wouldn't do it. And like, if they were the only ones on this island, and like that dynamic was actually searched a lot better, but I'm like, there really isn't much of a dynamic between them. They're just kind of awkwardly saying, like Luke saying no, and like, I liked the scene where she was kind of training herself, but then it was undercut by that slapstick moment where she drops the frickin' rock near the nuns that apparently live on this planet.
Yeah.
These like like alien creatures that we did not see at all in Episode 7 when she walked all the way up this mountain, and apparently these nuns just live here.
Okay, no, has anyone ever seen Labyrinth? Have you seen Labyrinth?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what those look like, the goblins from Labyrinth.
Yeah, they do.
The little goblin city. I was like, what the fuck are the goblins doing here?
But like, I will say, like, The Force Awakens, you see these little huts. You don't see any of these creatures in The Force Awakens. You don't see the porgs that are on the island. You don't see the giant nipple monsters in the water.
No.
You don't see the nuns that, the caretakers, I think are what they're called, that like are looking after this island. And like, I wouldn't mind that, but like, you don't, it's just, there's so many things in this movie that do not tie back to what it came from. And the fact that they did not care to like go from the source material that they were given to actually make this movie good
in Episode 7
just really builds to the fact that like Rian Johnson did not want this movie to be what everyone expected it to be. And it wasn't, but it wasn't good either.
Yeah. Unexpected doesn't automatically mean good. You still have to have like, I mean, you can't just ignore the movie that came before you. You still have to at least give a reason for why you're going a different direction. You can't just go a different direction and say, hey, but what about, and then have the fans be all like, hey, but what about all these things that don't line up? And he's like, shut up, this is my movie. It's like...
Yeah. It ends up feeling like a giant middle finger, you know?
Yeah. And then, so, like, Luke's island, like, there's just so many inconsistencies there with, like, what we saw in Episode 7. There's nuns, there's the porgs, there's the nipple monsters, there's the... And then, I just feel like a lot of stuff that they do there just doesn't really matter a whole lot. It's not like you really get to see a whole lot of what Luke's been... I mean, I guess you get to see what Luke's been doing, but I'm like... I was interested to see what Luke had been doing. Like, maybe he was doing something with the Force, or maybe he has rejected the Force or something, but I'm like, he's just kind of not doing anything.
He's pole vaulting.
I think his line was, you thought I came to this island to learn more about the Force or something, or to, by the way, I came to this island to die. And, like, just...
And he's, like, sustaining himself pretty well for a guy who wants to die.
Yeah.
I just he's,
feel,
like, catching these massive fucking fish.
But not only that, but, like, all of the motivations of the character of Luke Skywalker that we all knew from the original trilogy, and the arcs that we've seen him have through A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, were some of the greatest character arcs that have ever been in, like, a film before.
Yeah.
And in this movie, all of those motivations that he had just seemed like they weren't there. Like, I came to this island to die. He's just this curmudgeon old dude who does not want any part in anything that's happening. And a lot of it doesn't even entangle, like, just random people that he should care about, but a lot of it's even his family. Like, a lot of the things that happened in the original trilogy, Luke didn't, like, want to kill his own father because he cared about his family. In this movie, like, Luke rejected his family. We knew that, but we needed a reason why, and they never gave us a reason why. Luke's entire motivations of this movie were just completely gone, and I just felt like that was an answer that we needed.
Yeah, because it's like, this is the guy... Okay, so they're telling us the last time we've ever seen Luke was the end of Return of the Jedi. The Empire's been defeated, and, like, everybody's having a happy old time with the teddy bears.
Yup.
And so,
Yeah.
So... And this is so that character of Luke is a guy who would refuse to kill Darth Vader, the guy who's been oppressing the entire galaxy for decades, because he had a speck of good that he felt in him.
Yeah.
And now this new Luke that we see in Episode 8 is willing to murder his nephew, his child nephew, in his sleep because he might do something dark in the future. He's, like, thinking about it. I'm like, this isn't something that Luke would think about at all. I'm like, it'd be something that, you know, other characters from other franchises would think of that or have that kind of motivation in them. But I'm like, if you're going to have this Luke, you can't just go off the excuse of a time jump. You have to explain what's happened to Luke to make him this way now, where he would consider killing a kid in his sleep for not having done anything wrong yet.
Yeah.
And, like...
And not only that, but the runtime of this movie had so much time to explain that.
Yeah.
And, like, this was not a small point in the movie. The scene where Luke is about to kill Kylo Ren happens 3 times in the movie in different flashbacks that they do, which we've never done before in Star Wars.
Yeah, that was weird.
Flashbacks should not be in Star Wars. They've never been in Star Wars. Also, another thing, those editing things, you know, like the weird fades where, like, it cuts from side to side?
Yeah.
Were there any of those in Last Jedi? I don't remember seeing any.
You know what? I'm not sure.
Hey guys, let us know what you thought of Last Jedi in the comments. I hope you're liking the podcast. I got a lot of editing ahead of me. If you want to talk to me or Thomas, we have Twitter handles. They're at the top of the screen right there. Yeah, talk at us. We would love to hear from you. See you guys.